My son-in-law and his parents hated me. On the way to their house, I stopped to help a 60-year-old woman fix her car. I was late and dirty. They shooed me away like garbage with contempt and anger, but then the woman I helped arrived. What she said turned everything upside down. The newspaper crinkled between my fingers as I folded it back to the sports section. Saturday mornings had a familiar rhythm now. Coffee cooling in a chipped blue mug, silence in my small kitchen. This apartment held the stillness that comes when you've lived alone long enough to stop expecting company. It had been 3 years since Martha passed, and I still set the paper down where she used to sit. The phone's shrill ring cut through the quiet. My hand jerked, sending coffee droplets across the obituaries. Who calls at 1:30 on a Saturday? Rachel usually texted first, and my few remaining friends knew better than to interrupt my solitude. Hello, Donald. The voice carried a familiar chill, my son-in-law Richard's practiced politeness that never quite masked his discomfort. I straightened in the wooden chair. Richard never called. Our communication usually went through Rachel like water finding the path of least resistance. Richard, everything all right? A pause stretched across the line. Rachel insists I call you about something. It's my mother's birthday dinner tonight. My stomach tightened. Serenity Thompson's birthday. I'd forgotten. The way Richard said insists made it clear whose idea this invitation wasn't. I see. She thinks you should come. Another, longer pause. The family is gathering at 7 at Worthington Hills Country Club. Worthington Hills. Of course. Where the valet parking costs more than my weekly grocery budget and the wine list is designed to separate the worthy from the wanting. I glanced around my kitchen, the mismatched plates, the humming refrigerator, the single coffee cup that had become my whole routine. That's thoughtful of Rachel. Yes, well. Richard's tone suggested thoughtfulness had nothing to do with it. Dress is business casual. The club has standards. The word standards landed like a small punch, not cruel enough to challenge directly, but pointed enough to remind me where I stood in their world. I ran my thumb along the chipped rim of my coffee mug. I'll be there. Fine. 7 o'clock sharp. They don't hold reservations. The line went dead before I could respond. I held the phone to my ear for another moment, listening to the dial tone's steady hum. Business casual at Worthington Hills. I looked down at my faded Ohio State t-shirt and work pants. The clothes in my closet hadn't seen a country club in years, maybe ever. But Rachel would be there, and despite Richard's cold delivery, she'd asked for me. That meant something. The coffee was cold. I stood up, my knees protesting. 7 o'clock gave me time, but not much. First, I needed something decent to wear. Then, a gift worthy of Serenity Thompson's expectations. I flipped open my wallet, counting the worn bills, enough for a modest present, but nothing that would impress the Thompson family. Still, it wasn't about impressing them. It was about showing up for Rachel when she needed me. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, its quiet less comfortable. I grabbed my keys from the hook. The Toyota waited in the parking lot, as reliable as sunrise despite its age and accumulated scratches. Time to venture into their world, armed with nothing but stubborn pride and a father's love. 20 minutes later, I stood before my bedroom closet, water still dripping from my hair onto a towel around my shoulders. The shower had washed away the morning stillness, but not Richard's words. Business casual at Worthington Hills. Translation: don't embarrass us more than necessary. My dress shirts hung in a neat row. Navy blue seemed safest, conservative enough to blend in, dark enough to hide any shortcomings. I pulled it from the hanger, the fabric soft from countless washings. Martha used to iron my shirts with military precision. Now I managed with wrinkle-release spray and careful hanging. The drive to Eastland Mall took 15 minutes. Families loaded into SUVs, kids clutching lists for birthday parties and weekend activities. Normal families who probably didn't have to navigate minefields of social expectations. Inside, the weekend crowd moved with purpose. I found myself studying the other shoppers, wondering which ones would fit naturally at Worthington Hills, and which, like me, would stick out like a grease stain on silk. The department store's perfume counter hit me first, a wall of competing scents that made my eyes water. I moved deeper into the store, past displays of handbags that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Can I help you find something?" A sales clerk appeared beside me, her smile professional but genuine. Mid-40s, a wedding ring catching the light. The kind of person who understood working for a living. "Birthday gift for my son-in-law's mother." Her expression shifted. "What kind of relationship do you have with her?" Smart question. Complicated. She nodded. "Price range? 50 to 75. "Follow me." We moved toward a display of silk scarves and jewelry. Nothing too personal, nothing too cheap. Safe territory for difficult relationships. She pulled out a silver picture frame, elegant but not flashy. Classic choice. Shows thoughtfulness without overstepping. I turned it over in my hands. The price tag said $68. The memory hit me without warning. The first time I'd met Serenity and Palmer Thompson, Rachel had insisted on dinner at some fancy Italian place. Serenity's face when she realized her daughter-in-law's father fixed cars for a living still burned clear in my mind. "Dad works with his hands," Rachel had said, trying to bridge the gap. "He can fix anything." "How practical," Serenity had replied. The pause before practical spoke volumes. The sales clerk's voice brought me back. "So, I'll take it." She wrapped it carefully. At the register, I counted out the bills. Walking back through the mall, I caught glimpses of my reflection in storefront windows, clean shirt, pressed pants, gift bag in hand, trying to dress up for people who'd already decided I didn't belong. But this wasn't about them. This was about Rachel. The Toyota started on the second try. I set the gift bag carefully on the passenger seat and checked the dashboard clock. 12:40, enough time to get home, grab my jacket, and leave for Dublin with a few minutes to spare. The afternoon stretched ahead like a road into uncertain territory. An hour later, I'd been driving for a while, cruise control set at 68, classic rock playing low. The gift bag sat secure on the passenger seat. My peace offering for enemy territory. I checked the dashboard clock. 2:00 exactly. Right on schedule. Then the Mercedes appeared ahead, hazard lights blinking on the highway shoulder. My mechanic's instincts kicked in. Someone needed help. I pulled the Toyota behind the luxury sedan. A woman stood beside the open hood, silver hair catching sunlight, wearing a navy blazer that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She looked to be in her 60s, composed despite the circumstances. "Car trouble." I called out. "The engine just died," she said. "I'm Donald. Used to work on cars professionally. Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, weighing her options. "I'm Lauren Whitfield." She extended her hand. "I'd appreciate any insight you might have." Her handshake was firm, confident. "What happened right before it quit?" Strange noise from under the hood, almost like grinding. Then the temperature gauge shot up and everything went silent. I nodded, already forming a diagnosis. "Sounds like your water pump failed. When they go all at once. Usually takes the serpentine belt with them." "Is that fixable here?" "Depends on what else got damaged." "Mind if I grab some tools from my car?" She stepped aside. "Please." My emergency toolkit lived in the Toyota's trunk. 40 years of turning wrenches had taught me to carry essentials. Returning to the Mercedes, I caught Lauren studying my car with undisguised curiosity. 10-year-old Toyota versus a luxury sedan. The contrast wasn't lost on either of us. "Let's see what we're dealing with," I said, leaning over the engine compartment. Shredded belt hanging loose. Coolant splattered everywhere. The water pump pulley wobbling on its shaft. "Good news and bad news," I announced. "Good news is I can probably get you running again. Bad news is it's going to take some time." Lauren checked her slim gold watch. "How much time?" "Hour and a half, maybe 2. assuming I can jury-rig a temporary fix. Her face fell. Going somewhere important, obviously. Join the club. The alternative is calling a tow truck and waiting until Monday for parts, I continued. Your choice. She looked down the empty highway, then back at me. If you're willing to try, I'd be grateful. What do you need me to do? Stay clear of the traffic side, mostly. This is going to get messy. I rolled up my sleeves and dove into the engine bay, hands already dark with road grime and coolant. Lauren watched from a safe distance. You're missing your Saturday afternoon for this. Had somewhere to be myself. But cars don't respect social calendars. Where were you headed? Family dinner. Birthday party. Same thing, actually. Birthday celebration. The coincidence felt odd, but not impossible. I returned to the repair, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of problem-solving. Time compressed the way it always did when I worked. 40 minutes into the repair, sweat had begun to collect under my collar. How long have you been doing this? Lauren asked. Since I was 16. 46 years, give or take. That's impressive. Most people your age are slowing down. I glanced up, catching her expression. Not condescending like Richard's family would be, but genuinely curious. Cars keep me honest. Either you fix them right, or they leave you stranded like mine just did. Exactly. I set the damaged alternator on my fender. Good thing I'm old-fashioned about carrying backup parts. Lauren moved closer, studying the components with interest. You just happen to travel with spare alternators. This one's rebuilt. Picked it up from a junkyard last month. Never know when you'll need it. Most people would just... I trailed off, lining up the replacement unit. These days, everyone wants things done for them instead of learning to do them themselves. There's something to be said for self-reliance, she said, settling against the guardrail. My late husband used to say the same thing. Different field, but same principle. I caught the past tense. Sorry for your loss. Thank you. It's been 5 years, but sometimes it feels like yesterday. I'm sorry too. Lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer. It changes everything, doesn't it? Changes how you spend your time, that's certain. The bolt threads caught cleanly. Makes you think about what matters. Lauren was watching me work with the kind of attention that suggested real interest. You make it look easy. 46 years of practice. I chuckled, surprised to find myself relaxed despite the time pressure. My wife used to say I thought too much about simple things. Maybe she was right. Maybe thinking about simple things keeps us sane. You're gathering tonight, family? My daughter's in-laws. Not exactly my crowd, but you show up when family asks, even when it's complicated, especially then. Lauren nodded as if she understood. I returned to the repair, but something in our conversation made me slow my pace slightly. When was the last time I'd talked with someone who actually listened instead of waiting for their turn to speak? Almost finished, I announced. You've been incredibly kind, Lauren said. I know this has made you late. Sometimes being late is worth it. I tested the belt tension one final time, ready to see if this works. She straightened, anticipation and nervousness mixing in her expression. Ready. I climbed into the driver's seat. The afternoon had taken an unexpected turn, transforming from a dutiful family obligation into something more valuable. I turned the key. The engine purred contentedly. Success. Perfect. That sounds completely different, Lauren observed, leaning closer to hear the mechanical harmony. Should give you another 100,000 miles at least. I climbed out, wiping my hands on the old rag. Lauren retrieved her wallet. What do I owe you? 2 hours of expert work plus the part. Nothing. You don't owe me anything. Donald, you can't be serious. You've given up your entire afternoon. Sometimes people need help, that's all. At least let me pay for the parts. That alternator had to cost something. $15 at the junkyard. I've got more than I'll ever use. I closed my toolbox. What goes around comes around. This feels wrong. Trust me, it's not. She slowly returned her wallet to her purse. Then, at least give me your phone number. I'd like to stay in touch. That surprised me. You sure about that? Very sure. It's not often you meet genuinely decent people. I pulled out my phone and we exchanged numbers. Her phone rang with classical music, something elegant I didn't recognize. Lauren Whitfield, I said, saving the contact. And you're in mine, she smiled. Donald Campbell, Highway Angel. Just Donald's fine. We stood there for a moment, both recognizing our accidental partnership was ending. I hate to cut this short, but I really should get moving, Lauren said, checking her watch. I'm terribly late. The mention of time hit me like cold water. My carefully planned schedule had disappeared into highway assistance. Yeah, me too. Ah, Dublin. She smiled. Same general direction, though. Same area, actually. Small world. We might see each other on the road. She extended her hand for a final handshake. Thank you. It doesn't begin to cover what you've done today. Her grip was firm, warm, holding a moment longer than necessary. Take care of yourself, Lauren. You too, Donald. And I mean it about staying in touch. I watched her settle into the driver's seat. The Mercedes purred contentedly. For my own car, I grabbed the gift bag with Serenity's picture frame. Preliminary estate review. Just vague enough to sound harmless, just official enough to feel important. And that phrase, please respond promptly, was classic mom speak, even when filtered through legalese. It didn't ask, it demanded. For a few days, I debated ignoring it entirely. But something didn't sit right. They had spent the last several months sabotaging, manipulating, and twisting every interaction to suit themselves. So why suddenly offer transparency? Why ask for a meeting? I knew my parents had assets. Nothing extravagant, but valuable enough. The family house, some retirement funds, a modest piece of land upstate they used to call their escape plan. Growing up, Dad used to talk about leaving it to us when the time was right. But in the same breath, he'd also joke that Leia's the favorite and Derek's the responsible one. So, Sam, you better work hard. At the time, I thought it was a joke. Now, I wasn't so sure. I called the attorney the next morning, a woman named Claire. Professional, polite, efficient. I asked for details. She hesitated, citing client confidentiality. Your parents asked for this meeting to be informal, she said. But if you're listed on any assets or accounts, you have a right to review them. That's when I asked the question that changed everything. Can you tell me if anything has already been transferred? There was a long pause. Actually, yes, she said carefully. There have been recent adjustments. The primary residence, their home, is in the process of being placed under joint ownership with Derek, effective immediately. I blinked. Wait, without a will? It's part of an early living trust transfer, Claire explained. Not unusual, especially when one child is residing in the property long term. Derek didn't live there. Not anymore. But clearly that didn't matter. I kept my voice steady. What about the other assets? The upstate land, retirement distributions. She hesitated again. At this time, those are being held under parental control. But I can tell you that there's been discussion of placing Leia as a secondary beneficiary. Not both of us, just her. Not a word, not a call, not even a heads up. They were shuffling everything. The house, the future, the family legacy behind my back. I thanked Claire, hung up, and sat in stunned silence. It wasn't even about the money. Not really. It was the confirmation. They were cutting me out, quietly, strategically. And if I hadn't followed up, I might never have known until it was too late. But here's where it gets interesting. See, what my parents didn't know was that 2 months earlier, I'd been invited to a private Slack group by one of my freelance clients, a mix of financial consultants, legal aids, and small business owners. I joined mostly for networking, but I hadn't participated much until now. That same day, I dropped a question in the group. Hypothetically, what are someone's rights if their name was intentionally excluded from a family estate despite prior verbal assurances and shared contributions? Within minutes, replies flooded in. One lawyer based out of New York messaged me privately. Turns out, she specialized in inheritance disputes and trust litigation. I told her everything. The family dynamics, the pattern of manipulation, the financial entanglements, the sudden property transfer. I even sent her a redacted version of Claire's email and my own Venmo history showing years of contributions, from monthly utility splits to surprise repairs I'd covered. Let me guess, the lawyer said. They framed it all as voluntary, right? Every single time, I replied. She responded with one line. You have more leverage than you think. That sentence lit something inside me, because for the first time, I wasn't standing on the outside of the house looking in. I was standing on solid ground, holding receipts and seeing the whole structure for what it was. Rigged, yes, but not untouchable. Over the next 2 weeks, we worked quietly. She helped me draft a formal inquiry, a polite but firm legal letter requesting full documentation of any estate transfers, financial changes, or trust reassignments in which I was a potential stakeholder. It was framed professionally, the kind of letter that could come from someone angry or from someone just watching. It didn't accuse, it warned. I sent it through the attorney, not to my parents, not to Derek, not to Leah, just to Claire. That alone was enough to rattle the nest. 3 days later, my phone rang. Mom. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Sam, what is this? A lawyer? What are you trying to prove? We are family. Derek texted next. This is low, man. After everything Mom and Dad have done for you. Then came Leah. You're being dramatic. This is about a house. Grow up. But none of them ever said, we didn't do it. Because they couldn't. They had been caught in the act, not by confrontation, but by documentation. And I hadn't even played my full hand yet. During those same 2 weeks, I'd reviewed every Venmo payment, every email, every message where they'd guilt me into chipping in. And I'd created a timeline, a clean, neat list of transactions that painted a very different story, not of a selfish son, but a pattern of manipulation and unspoken obligation. With that, I set up a second appointment with my lawyer. What do you want to do next? She asked. And for the first time, I had an answer. I don't want to take everything, I said. Just what's mine, and maybe a little piece. She smiled. That can be arranged. Revenge didn't come in the form of a screaming match or a dramatic confrontation in some lawyer's office. No, it was quieter than that. Colder. Controlled. Not an explosion, but a slow leak of power. And it started with one simple email reply. Claire, thank you for confirming the asset transfers. I'm formally requesting full documentation regarding the estate and any recent changes made. Kindly send all relevant paperwork to my legal representative, Miss Jessica Tan. Regards, Sam. The second that email went out, the game shifted because now they knew 2 things. I wasn't playing along anymore and I wasn't alone. A lawyer with a clean paper trail, a detailed timeline, and receipts was now in the loop. And they had no idea what Jessica knew or how far she'd go. But the truth was, we hadn't even filed anything yet. No lawsuits, no public records, just pressure. That subtle, legal kind of pressure that makes people sweat, not because you've attacked, but because you've prepared to. Within 24 hours, I got a call from Claire. Your parents are alarmed, she said carefully. I almost smiled. They should be. They'd like to schedule a family meeting to resolve this. In person? I asked. Yes. I agree, I said, but with conditions. My lawyer would attend as a silent observer. We'd meet on neutral ground. Everything discussed would be documented. And most importantly, if they raised their voices, made accusations, or tried to guilt me, the meeting would end immediately. Claire relayed my terms. I expected them to back down. They didn't. I arrived at the conference room on the top floor of a quiet legal office downtown. Jessica was already there, calm and unreadable, a neat leather folder open in front of her. My parents were the last to arrive. Donald. Her voice carried across the space with unmistakable warmth. What a wonderful surprise to see you here. She moved toward me with the easy grace of someone genuinely happy to see an old friend. The Thompson family stood frozen. Lauren, I felt my first smile in hours. Small world, isn't it? It is just. She reached me. How did the rest of your drive go? I hope you weren't too late for your family gathering. Behind her, I watched Serenity's expression cycle through confusion, recognition, and growing horror. My family gathering, I repeated. Actually, this is it. Lauren's eyebrows rose in surprise. Really? How lovely. What are the odds? She turned to include the Thompson family. Mrs. Whitfield, Palmer managed, his voice strangled with forced cheer. Welcome to our home. We're so honored to have you join us for Serenity's birthday celebration. The pleasure is entirely mine. Lauren's tone remained gracious. I do hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Serenity stepped forward. Her transformation from contemptuous hostess to fawning supplicant was so rapid it would have been comical. Not at all. We were just welcoming Donald to the party. How wonderful. Donald was such a lifesaver this afternoon. My car broke down on the highway, and he spent hours getting me back on the road. Refused to take any payment. Can you believe it? The silence that followed was profound. Every eye moved between Lauren and me. Ours. Richard's voice cracked slightly. At least two, Lauren confirmed cheerfully. I was completely stranded until Donald stopped to help. Such kindness from a complete stranger. You don't see that often these days. Palmer cleared his throat, his businessman's instincts fighting with his panic. Yes, well, Donald is. He's very helpful. The word came out like he was admitting to a character flaw. Lauren's head tilted slightly. Is everything quite all right? There seems to be some tension in the air. Yes, Richard stepped forward, his wine glass trembling. We were just discussing appropriate attire for the celebration. Attire? Lauren's eyebrows rose slightly. You mean the clothes Donald is wearing? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. The clothes he wore while repairing my car this afternoon, Lauren continued, her voice carrying a new quality, a quiet authority that demanded attention. The clothes that got dirty because he spent 2 hours helping a stranger on the highway. Palmer cleared his throat again. Mrs. Whitfield, you have to understand. We maintain certain standards. Standards. Lauren repeated the word. What exactly did you say to Donald about his appearance? The silence stretched painfully. They said I couldn't sit at the table with human beings, I said quietly. Several guests gasped audibly. Lauren's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture, a straightening that made her seem suddenly taller, more formidable. I see. Her voice carried the chill of a winter morning. And this is how you treat someone who spent his afternoon helping others. This is your definition of appropriate behavior. Mrs. Whitfield, please understand, Palmer began desperately. Oh, I understand perfectly. Lauren moved to stand beside me, her presence like armor. I understand that Donald sacrificed his afternoon to help a stranger, arrived late to your party because of his kindness, and was told he wasn't fit to sit with human beings. Serenity's face had gone chalk white. We didn't mean. You meant exactly what you said. Lauren's tone could have cut diamonds. Now, let me be equally clear about what I mean. She looked around the room. Either Donald sits at this table with the respect and dignity he deserves, or I walk out that door immediately. The silence was absolute. Palmer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You don't understand, Richard whispered. Our reputation. Your standing. Lauren's laugh held no warmth. Your standing is determined by how you treat people when you think no one important is watching. And I've been watching. I've seen more character in this man's little finger than exists in this entire household combined. Anyone who disagrees is welcome to leave with the hosts. Not a single guest moved toward the door. Rachel stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Miss Whitfield, I'm so sorry. The apology should come from your husband's family, dear." Lauren's tone softened only for Rachel. "You're not responsible for their choices." Palmer and Serenity exchanged desperate glances. Their birthday celebration had become a moral tribunal. "Of course, Donald is welcome at our table," Palmer said finally, his voice hollow with defeat. "We were just concerned about his comfort." "How thoughtful." Lauren's sarcasm could have frozen the wine. "Then let's proceed to dinner, shall we? Donald, would you do me the honor of sitting beside me?" "I'd be honored," I said. 20 minutes later, we sat around the mahogany dining table. The meal service proceeded with painful politeness. Palmer couldn't stop talking. "We're so pleased you could join us this evening, Mrs. Whitfield. Your reputation in the investment community precedes you, of course." Lauren raised an eyebrow. "Does it?" "Oh, absolutely. When we heard you were considering our proposal, well," Palmer's voice trailed off. "Your proposal?" "The commercial development project we submitted to your firm last month." Understanding hit me like a physical blow. Lauren wasn't just an elegant woman. She was their potential investor, the person who could make or break Palmer's business. And they had just treated the man who'd helped her like garbage. "I see." Lauren set down her fork. "Yes, I do evaluate investment opportunities. Though I have to say, tonight has been quite educational. You see, my investment decisions aren't based solely on financial projections. Character matters. Integrity matters. How people treat others when they think nobody important is watching, that matters enormously." Palmer's face had gone from red to gray. "Mrs. Whitfield, if there's been any misunderstanding—" "Oh, there's been no misunderstanding at all." Lauren's smile could have frozen fire. "You needed my investment, invited me to your party, and then spent the evening demonstrating exactly the kind of people you are." "We were simply maintaining appropriate standards." "Standards? You told a man who'd spent his afternoon helping a stranger that he wasn't fit to sit with human beings. Is that your standard?" The room felt like it was spinning. These people who had humiliated me were dependent on the goodwill of the woman I'd helped. The cosmic justice was almost too perfect. The irony is quite remarkable, don't you think? Lauren continued. "The man you deemed unworthy of your company is the same person who spent 2 hours repairing my car this afternoon. Without him, I wouldn't have made it here at all." Palmer's knife clattered against his plate. "We didn't know." "That's precisely the point. You didn't know. You judged Donald based on his appearance, his profession, his social status. You never bothered to consider his character, his kindness, his competence. In my experience, those are far better indicators of a person's worth than the price of their clothing." "Mrs. Whitfield, my father is a good man," Rachel said with tears in her eyes. "I can see that, dear. It's obvious to anyone with eyes to see. The question is whether your husband's family can see it." The birthday cake sat untouched. "I want you to understand something," Lauren said, addressing the Thompson family. Donald Campbell stopped on a busy highway to help a complete stranger. He worked for 2 hours in the heat, got dirty, used his own tools and parts, and refused any payment. He made himself late for your gathering because he prioritized helping someone in need. And your response was to humiliate him for the very kindness that brought me here safely. Lauren's voice carried the weight of absolute moral authority. "That tells me everything I need to know about your character, and character, as I mentioned, is crucial to my investment decisions." Palmer's hands were shaking now. "Mrs. Whitfield, please, if you could find it in your heart to reconsider." "Oh, I'm considering many things right now," Lauren replied, her tone suggesting the considerations were not favorable. She set down her napkin with the deliberate precision of someone accustomed to making decisions that change lives. "I've made my decision about the Thompson construction investment." Palmer's face went the color of ash. "Mrs. Whitfield, please, In my 30 years of venture capital investment, I've learned that numbers tell only part of the story. The most important factor is character. And the people I choose to back must demonstrate basic human decency, integrity, and respect for others. Those qualities aren't negotiable. This afternoon, when my car broke down on the highway, I was helped by a man who demonstrated the kind of character I value in business partners. You, on the other hand, demonstrated the kind of character I cannot support. I will not be investing in Thompson Construction. The silence that followed was deafening. Palmer's face had gone from ash to chalk. Please reconsider, Palmer managed. I've seen enough tonight to know that any business relationship between us would be fundamentally incompatible with my values. Lauren's smile held no warmth. You treated Donald poorly because you thought it didn't matter. That tells me everything I need to know about your character and judgment. I felt something shift inside my chest, not triumph, but the profound satisfaction of seeing justice served. Character isn't something you can turn on and off based on who's watching, Lauren continued. It's who you are when you think it doesn't matter. And tonight, you showed me exactly who you are. Palmer's business empire crumbled in that elegant dining room. I hope this experience teaches you something valuable about how to treat other human beings, though I suspect the lesson will be expensive. 10 minutes later, I retrieved my jacket. The Thompson house felt like a crime scene. Rachel appeared beside me, her eyes red. Dad, I'm so sorry. I know, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I pulled her into a hug. What am I supposed to do now? Be yourself. That's all any of us can do. I kissed her forehead. You're better than this, Rachel. Don't let their bitterness change who you are. Lauren waited patiently by the door. When I finished speaking with Rachel, I surprised myself with my boldness. Lauren, would you like to get some dinner? I know a place nearby that serves decent food without requiring a trust fund. Her smile was the first genuine warmth I'd seen all evening. I'd like that very much. We left the Thompson house behind, walking into the cool May evening air that felt like freedom. My Toyota sat between two luxury cars like a reminder that authenticity existed among artifice. Your car or mine? Lauren asked, amusement dancing in her eyes. Mine's probably more reliable, I said, thinking of the alternator repair that had started this entire adventure. During the short drive to Miller's Steakhouse, a local place where the food was excellent and the pretension non-existent, we talked about everything except the evening's drama. We settled into a corner booth where red vinyl seats had been worn smooth by decades of honest meals. So, Lauren said after we'd ordered, this has been quite a day. That's one way to put it. I woke up this morning dreading a birthday party. Now I'm having dinner with someone who completely changed my perspective on everything. The universe has a sense of humor, doesn't it? She leaned back. I've spent 30 years evaluating people for business partnerships. Usually takes months of research. Today, I learned everything I needed to know in 2 hours on a highway. Our meals arrived, simple steaks and vegetables. We ate slowly, conversation flowing with the ease of people who discovered unexpected compatibility. Can I ask you something? I said, why does character matter so much in your business decisions? Because everything else can be taught or hired, Lauren explained. But character, integrity, the way someone treats others when they think it doesn't matter, that's who people really are. And I've learned that bad character eventually destroys everything else. The Thompson family learned that lesson the hard way tonight. They'll survive, Lauren said without malice. Palmer will find other investors. Serenity will adapt her social status to their reduced circumstances. Richard will keep his job and perhaps learn something about choosing sides. And Rachel will be fine. She has something her husband's family lacks. Genuine kindness that'll carry her through whatever comes next. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Lauren had grown up in modest circumstances, built her success through hard work. and was a widower who, like me, felt a loneliness money couldn't address. "Friends become more precious as we get older," she said as we finished our coffee. "Real friends, people who see who you actually are and like you anyway." "I'd like to be that kind of friend," I said. "You already are." Walking to our cars, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Martha died. Genuine optimism. Not because of the vindication, but because I'd found someone who valued the same things I did. "Donald," Lauren said, stopping beside her Mercedes, "I want you to have my personal phone number, not the business line. My actual number. Call me when you want to talk to someone who appreciates good character over good appearances." I programmed her number into my phone, right below Rachel's contact information. "You realize you're going to hear from me regularly." "I'm counting on it." Driving home through the quiet streets of Dublin, I reflected on the day's journey from highway assistance to moral vindication to genuine friendship. Martha would have loved Lauren. My phone buzzed with a text message. Lauren's number appeared on the screen. "Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist. Looking forward to our friendship." I typed back, "Thank you for seeing something worth defending. Drive safely." The apartment waited for me, small and modest, and exactly what I needed. But it no longer felt empty. Sometimes justice arrives wearing an elegant blazer and driving a Mercedes, armed with nothing but moral authority and the power to recognize authentic human worth.